All right, we're going to get into our next panel, Getting Insurance Right. To kick us off, I'd like to invite Sean Quincy from Symphony to come to the stage. Round of applause, Brian.
Oh, that's good. Well, good afternoon, and thank you very much. It's a privilege to sponsor this session as Symphony on Getting Insurance Right. A little bit about Symphony, just quickly. We look to deliver the best customer experience we can in relation to premium payments. Now, that might sound really, really boring sometimes, but premium payments can be one of our most common customer interactions, and the Symphony team looks to automate those common customer queries, like, can I move my payment from a Monday to a Thursday through a nice, beautiful customer self-service portal. So if you're looking to deliver great customer self-service payment experiences, get in touch with our team. We're a local engineering team. We would love to do it. And thank you very much for... It's always good at a conference when someone says Symphony Right, so thank you very much as well. So all the best. Cheers. Thank you.
That is very generous of Sean to say that, because actually I said, so you're Sean Quincy from Symphony. No, it's Symphony, he said. All right, here we go with Getting Insurance Right, our final panel of the day. The industry has been through a testing time in recent years, dominated by the North Island weather events of early 2023 and its impact on individual insurers, their people, customers and systems, while they also carried out their day-to-day operations. The North Island weather events, the insurance industry response, showed the industry reacted quickly to mobilise and deploy staff and resources to assist customers with their claims and allow them to get on with their lives. Of the 118,000 plus claims lodged from the Auckland anniversary weekend flooding and Cyclone Gabrielle events, 91% was settled in a year and 96% in 16 months. Yes, Sir Jerry thinks we can do better, but those figures are a testament to those in the room and the many others at the front line or behind the scenes, including those from overseas who got on with their job in extremely challenging conditions. We also recognise that abuse and threats to staff have become more common in today's world. That is not acceptable. Staff have every right to expect that they should be able to do their work in a safe and protected environment. We look at how that is being managed and what lessons that we're seeing in this panel. There is a perception that insurance is a little bit dull and boring. In fact, its role in society is probably underappreciated. It fulfills a function that supports people and economies and keeps the wheels of commerce running. It can also offer a wide range of opportunities for people and increasingly requires a range of new skills in areas such as AI. So it is my pleasure to introduce our final panel speakers for Getting Insurance Right. Come on up to the stage, Suzanne Walton, CEO of Mars. Now, Suzanne is a professional director, speaker, chartered accountant, qualified hypnotherapist and financial services expert, so you can hypnotise people to buy your products. Very good. Suzanne has more than 30 years' experience as a board member and senior executive in some of New Zealand and the UK's leading organisations. Adrian Sweeney, General Manager for New Zealand Zurich. Adrian has extensive experience working in a range of functions, including insurance, risk and digital transformations, as well as across a number of territories, including USA, Asia Pacific, the UK and Europe. Adrian has over 40 years of insurance experience. Simone Labadie, CEO, IOE Niseidawa Insurance. She is the director of the company and an ICNZ board member. Recognised for her transformative leadership, she has steered large-scale change, optimised operating models and leveraged technology to unlock business value for major global brands across Australia and New Zealand. Alyssa Downey, Head of Corporate Affairs and Sustainability, Corporate Affairs AA Insurance Limited. Alyssa plays a key role in guiding the company's response to the pressing challenges of climate change. She has over 2 decades of experience in corporate affairs and sustainability across insurance, energy, telecommunications, health and the disability sector. Her work includes integrating sustainability into core business strategies and championing initiatives that build trust and balance environmental, social and governance priorities. A round of applause, please, for all of our panellists. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm going to give you, have we all got, yes, great. So if we share this one here, that would be really good. What has stood out for you today Suzanne, in the discussions?
I think what stood out for me is the possible tension between the amount of regulatory burden that we have and the duty that we have to deliver for our members or our customers. So if you think about it, one of the briefs for this panel is, how to make insurance better. I'd like to see insurance made better for obviously our members and our customers, but for our people as well. I think one of the things that would make insurance better in the long term is for us to embrace the fact that we are going to become a more technology-enabled society than we ever have in the past, but that technology is there to enable humans to be humans. And one of the things that we will bring as humans to make insurance better is the empathy that we all have, the ability to make emotional connections with our members and our customers. And if we recruit people into the industry who have the ability to make those emotional connections with our members and allow them to make those things and do what is right without overburdening them with compliance and regulation and employing people who have got great values and then telling them, oh, but you can't go and do that. Oh, no, you can't do that. That's too risky. I think that's a backward step. So I think if we can allow humans to be humans and allow the technology to take all of the process and all of the administration out, that will go a long way to make insurance better for our members and our people.
I want to put the same question to all of our panellists, but quickly from you, Adrian, a high point of the day and perhaps a low?
I don't know about a low point. I think, just picking up on the comments there, I think the tension that exists between the fact that we all genuinely, I think, in the industry think we've done a pretty good job recently in the last couple of years, but we're a little bit shy about saying that too much because...
Very Kiwi of us.
Well, I'm not sure it's Kiwi. I think it's industry-wide, actually. I think globally, the industry does a huge amount of good. We write very large checks to people at their worst times, but we don't like to say that because you can guarantee the one thing people remember is when it hasn't worked very well. And so I think we've got to get much better at and I think empathy is a great way of trying to deal with those people that are struggling, where things are not working out, while recognising that actually day in, day out, we employ people that do a very good job for people at probably, in many cases, the worst times in their life. And I think we actually owe it to ourselves to be quite proud of that.
So if I ask you what the attributes that are needed for the job nowadays, what would your answer be? Has it changed in recent years?
I think it's continued to change over the years. I am old enough to remember when we first got a PC in the office back in the UK, and it sat in the corner for 3 months because nobody knew what it was and nobody knew what to do with it. And then 15 years ago, we got Blackberries and laptops, and everybody was on all the time and 24/7, but we were just using the technology. Then we got digital natives sort of 7 years ago. They were everywhere all the time, very comfortable with technology, and everything worked together. But even for that group, the digital natives, we've now got AI. Nobody's native in AI, even the newer generations. So I think the pace of change, but the ability to help those people understand that change and react to it has increased significantly for all of us over the years. And so I think the attributes that we're looking for now are people that can cope with that pace of change. And that's us as well. And I can barely use my laptop most of the time. So I think it's a big issue for the industry to help people work in that environment.
I remember doing a story when I was a very young reporter about this thing called the internet, and I did a whole story for this kids show on it, and at the end I still didn't know what it was. And the good news is that I've heard that people like us who understand the old technology and who are getting familiar with the new technologies, actually we're quite adaptive, and we are able to grapple with the old and new stuff on a sort of nice flowy way, whereas the digital natives, they need it to be all modern. So we shouldn't feel too worried about that. I don't think anyway. Let me ask you, Simone, the same question. What do you think the attributes are needed for the job nowadays?
Yeah, I think I'd like to just tap into what Suzanne said earlier and just extend on that. I'm a big believer in empathy across organisations for our people and also for customers. But in addition to that, I think this notion of kindness, so kindness for our people, kindness to our customers, in order to really drive accountability, be able to drive the right results across the organisation. I went to a conference recently, and at that conference they did speak about kindness, which I thought was, a wonderful topic. And whilst it is about trying to drive organisations to achieve better results through the elements of kindness and using that really as, I guess, our human superpower, it's also not just about being nice. It's also about holding people to account, about making sure that you give people direct feedback so that they can actually learn and grow in their roles. And I think as well it's about bringing people together, getting them to communicate and collaborate so that they can achieve things that they really never thought were possible.
Do you think that people sometimes forget, outside of this industry, your clients, that they're dealing with humans who do have empathy and kindness, and the notion is that insurers are just looking to get the most out of you for the least in return?
I think there can be sometimes customers that think that, but I would like to think that the way that we handle our relationships with customers over the phone, that they do, when they claim, they realise that actually this is a really worthwhile policy that I've bought, it's a worthwhile service, and the experience is exceptional. So I think it comes back to earlier in the day when someone mentioned those who use insurance are actually promoters of the industry versus those who have never used it. So I think it ties into that.
What would you say, Alyssa, is the key attribute that you need to work in this industry?
Yeah, I think it's an openness to change is becoming more and more critical to be successful in this industry. And I think it's an attribute that is sort of added into a bucket of a already very long list of attributes that you need to be successful, like empathy, like having kindness. But the openness to change, I think humans generally, it's in our DNA. We can cope with change pretty well in our day-to-day lives. But, when you're walking through the door of your organisation, can you always say the same about your organisation responding to change? And so I think there's a real key piece there to combine that deliberate, thinking about your culture in a way that's going to unlock that innate capability we have to be responsive to change and the myriad things coming our way, already here, but coming our way that we've talked about today: technology, regulation change, climate change. One of the highlights for me today was, really hearing how close we are potentially to actually having some legislation that could be what we've all wanted for 10 years. Yes, there's some hesitation that it might not be the silver bullet, but we're getting close again to it. So I think just openness to all this potential change that can come our way, working together with our people, but unlocking that through our culture is really key.
So what does your staff expect? What do your people expect in this job?
Well, I think our people increasingly expect to be involved in solving these bigger problems because it's natural for our people to, they're closest to the issues. Especially people in our call centres, a great idea can come from anywhere in the organisation. So being open to where these good ideas can come from, having a collaborative way of working is more and more an expectation of people. And I think that's especially critical amongst Generation Z. Been reading some stuff about Gen Z because I'm an elder millennial and I try and keep up with what it's all about. But I used to have this kind of idea that Gen Z wanted to just be the boss and be the leader and be the next Mark Zuckerberg, but it's not that at all. They just want to have a say in how they do their work. They want to collaborate. They want to be part of the solution. So I think that's a cool expectation to have, and something that, again, if you can unlock within your culture, you could be on to a real winner.
Can I just sort of add to that from a perspective of having sat on a board and then stepped into a CEO role? I think one of the things that's hardest to do now for boards is to actually live and breathe what all of the younger people that are coming through in our cultures want us to. And I also think that boards have a there's a real expectation now that they've got to look at the what used to be called soft factors, which aren't soft at all. They're actually the hardest things to do. But look at the things that matter most to members or customers. Look at the satisfaction scores. Look at the engagement scores, and give those things equal weight as the financial results get. If you have a board that's only focused on those financial results and gives lip service to the softer or more empathetic measures, then you'll never get that top-down, bottom-up culture.
What do you believe? Adrian, what's your reaction?
So I think people coming into the industry now expect us to help them learn and develop for their future life, not necessarily just for their role in the organisation that you have today. We have to accept, I think, that people move around a lot more rapidly than they used to. And I think that's a good thing, but we have to accept that that's a cost with that, because we have to, we need to put the training and development, not only to get them up to speed with their roles, but to expose them to the future and how things might develop. And that is a core part of what we do. It means we probably have higher staff turnover, but we are at least putting people into the market that have got more skills and more capability. So I think there's that sort of expectation. I think there's an expectation as well, particularly maybe in New Zealand, that you open up opportunities overseas. And I think that's an interesting one, where people come in with a very clear expectation, an articulated expectation. In 3 years' time, I want to work in London or New York or something like that. And I think people have an expectation that if you're a global company like Zurich is, that's easy to do and it's very simple, and obviously you just move them very quickly. It doesn't quite work that way, but there is that expectation that you open doors for them around the world, and that you keep that door open for when they want to come back. And I think there's a bit of resource planning challenges for us, but I think it's healthy.
So it's a good thing, but it's a complicated thing.
Yeah, it is a very complicated thing. I think we were, if you look around, this is my 41st year in the insurance industry. People get into the industry. The historical model is you get in, you process. 41 years later, you walk out the door. It isn't like that now. We don't really want people processing, we want people thinking, we want people being empathetic, spending time with customers. We've changed from being process to now giving people inputs, expecting them to think, asking them to take decisions, rationalise their answers. That's a very different skill set, and I think people need training and help in that.
Yeah, and we're asking them to do it in an environment that's becoming ever more predictably unpredictable. Simone, so we touched on briefly the reality that staff are dealing with more abuse than ever before. What is the industry doing to keep staff safe, and how can we keep them safe?
Yeah, look, I think the industry has always been a tricky one. If you can't hear, I'm Australian. So I know that in Australia it's always been a tricky industry, particularly, say, with repairers and things like that. I know I dealt with the mafia once, and I think they'd had a murder case, so that was pretty scary.
Wait, don't slide past that. What? You dealt with the mafia? Can you tell us more?
They were up for murder, and I was trying to get some money out of them. So it was, it was a little bit scary. So I think the industry in of itself, our people are dealing with customers who have all sorts of backgrounds. Not everybody is up for murder, of course, but they do have all sorts of backgrounds, and we need to make sure that we are protecting them and keeping them safe. So I think, putting some processes in place that help and ensure that they're safe on the premises, or that they're safe in terms of the communications that they have with these customers, if they understand who they're talking to, that they have some sort of elements or some sort of leeway that they might give in terms of the processes and how they might tackle a situation. I think the first and foremost is to make sure that our people in the industry are kept safe.
So what did you do in that case? Were you leaned on? Did they try to make life difficult for you?
No, luckily, even with my strange surname, they did not find me in the telephone book or my parents and come knocking on our door.
They threatened to do so?
No, they did not.
Okay. But your point is well taken, which is that you don't know who you're dealing with or what they're dealing with that could make them tricky or difficult customers. Mm-hmm. And so therefore, there is a real potential for threat to workers. What have you come across, Alyssa?
I think, the threat to workers, their physical safety is absolutely something that we're all, continuously focused on and making sure we have strong processes in place. But there's also, since COVID, we've had 2 major events back to back. We've had a cost of living crisis, which affects, people in different ways. That's a lot for anyone in the industry to be having gone through this time, let alone those people who are on the phones or dealing with communications with customers who are really struggling in this environment as well. So there's a psychological safety element of our people in all of this, which is really important. And, we don't want a situation where our people are sacrificing their own well-being, their own mental health in order to, staunch it out on, back-to-back really challenging conversations, or conversations that contain really challenging behaviours, which, are going to have potential to really push people outside of their window of tolerance on what they can really cope with at any one time. So I think it's really critical that the leadership within our organisations are really attuned to when people might be getting the shakes in these types of situations and know how to intervene with support, wraparound support to look after people. And that could look like different things it's a spectrum, right? The wraparound support you give to someone who's struggling with a high workload is going to be very different to someone who's just had a mafia member threaten their safety or something like that. Not that that's happened in my experience, but as an example. So really just making sure that you're aware of that psychological safety risk and have really strong controls that are still working, and just that the most critical thing is having the type of work environment where if you're not okay to keep going, that it's safe to stick your hand up and say, I'm not okay to keep going today, so I'm going to take some time out and recover from a series of challenging conversations. So,
Suzanne, what are your thoughts on keeping staff safe?
I think it's a lot more acceptable now to be able to show your vulnerability at work. And I think that if we can encourage that as much as possible, that is a really good thing. I've sort of worked in the industry for long enough to have had lots of experience of threatening situations, both psychologically threatening or physically threatening to me or members of the team. But I can honestly say that they are really, really difficult to respond to in a way that allows you to really show that you understand what your staff member or your team member is going through. You've got to let them show vulnerability. You've got to go and put your arm around them if they need it. You've got to go up to them if you've heard them on the phone talking to someone who was obviously quite heated or quite upset. You've got to respond to that if they won't show you their vulnerability. But allowing them to show their vulnerability is so important.
Do you have any examples that you can share?
Not too recently, but I think around the Canterbury earthquake, and I can see some of you were working for a different company with me when we were down in Canterbury. But there were lots and lots of public meetings, particularly after the first earthquake, where we were as an industry and a government trying to come up with a solution for suburbs that would give that suburb more resilience. And what it meant was that parts of this suburb were going to get their houses fixed more quickly than other parts of the suburb. And that actually created a lot of angst amongst the people that were there. And it didn't matter what insurance company you worked for or what agency you were with, you were all bunched together as the enemy. And that was really difficult because above all else, those of us that were there really were there to help the customers and help the members. And you almost felt unable to reassure them that you really were here for them because they just weren't in the mindset where they could believe that.
I don't want to get Pollyanna on it because actually that's very serious. But was there any silver lining out of that situation of being bonded together in that way by those outside of the industry?
Yeah, there was. I mean, we took a very proactive stance to it with the company that I was with in those days. We actively engaged with the media. We actively said, look, we'd like you to come out to see this particular customer who is in particular dire need, they've got a really difficult claim, we'd like you to come out, we'd like you to see us help them. So that as well as the customer getting the sense that we really did mean what we said, that there was an ability for us to tell that story proactively through the media.
So we've talked about, being in lockstep, being joined up. Is there more opportunity for that, Adrian, now than ever?
In terms of how we look after our people and that sort
Yeah.
of thing?
Is there a way that the industry could work together to provide well-being tools, or just ways that you can cooperate?
Yeah, I think there probably are. I think most large organisations will have some sort of employee resource program, a free phone number or whatever. I think we could, as an industry, that you could industrialise that rather than have it for individual companies. There are, we have mental health first aiders. I think we could all collectively sponsor some programs to do something like that. I think that's a good idea. So we have 25 people, and 2 of those are trained as mental health first aiders. I think there's things that we could do to wrap around people. And safety, for me, is not just that reacting to tough customers. It's also having an environment where people feel safe, to come to work, particularly. Some of the other communities that we have, I think there's a lot that we could all collectively do in that space.
Okay, so these are the threats. What about the challenges, Simone, around a world that is now dominated by tech and AI? What do they represent in terms of the more tricky side of things, and also what they represent in perhaps a positive way?
Yeah, sure. I love tech and AI, so for me, I feel quite inspired by it, and I guess that's also what I see through my teams. So for anybody that's done a technology transformation or anything like that in their environment, the way that teams kind of pull together, the way they work together, they problem solve, like there's virtually nothing more inspiring for teams when they deliver something that they probably thought they could never achieve. So I love tech and AI, and I don't think there are too many downsides to it. I think we'll be able to use that to be able to provide a better outcome and a better experience for our customers. There are probably 2 key risk areas for me around tech and AI that I do see. The first one, and we've experienced it already really throughout COVID, and that is the more technology and perhaps, say people working from home or using technology and not necessarily being in that communicative or collaborative space, then they can become perhaps isolated, a little bit lonely, and how do we then support people and basically their mental health to make sure that they're not in some sort of downward spiral. I think working in teams, and I'm a huge advocate for people working in the office, and we predominantly do work in the office, but I think people feed off other people and that energy and that inspiration. So the first one is really that risk is around sort of the mental health challenges. The second one for me is around deep faking. So that one scares me the most because obviously you can't trust an email. We know that now. You can't necessarily trust a Teams call in the future because you don't know exactly who you are talking to. I say to my team, don't worry, I will never ask you for money via email or via Teams. I'll come straight to your desk and ask you for money.
What are your thoughts on it, Alyssa? I mean, I was so impressed with Sir Ian's presentation, and it's just a marvel to see the generative AI, I can't remember what the guy's name was, but he had the guy on the 2 sides of the screen, and one of them was generative AI. And I thought, wow, that's so amazing. And also, God, that's scary. How do you approach it?
I've started to get pretty used to using AI on a kind of daily basis in my life. And it's been a game changer in the sense that it's taken away the part of my job that I guess there's a lot of writing in my job, and sometimes just going to AI and asking it how I going to ChatGPT, asking how I get over a bit of writer's block. it'll give me something back on a certain topic or what have you, and I'll be like, that's wrong, but it will have triggered something in me that enables me to move past the block I had and get going on what I wanted to do. So I think the point is that it is a tool, and it's not something to be afraid of. It's something that has the potential to make our lives better, to make our jobs easier, parts of the jobs that are, tedious or like that hold us back sometimes, and potentially make our jobs more enjoyable. But what's really, really critical is that it's just a tool at the end of the day. So it's how we use it and how we're supported to use that within our organisations to make sure we're not walking straight into the risks that Simone's described.
There is a question from the floor for you, Alyssa. What role do you think diversity, equity and inclusion plays in keeping staff safe and doing insurance right?
Oh, wow. It plays an enormous role. And look, diversity, equity and inclusion and belonging is something that, if it's not something, again, that you're asking your people to help you solve, chances are whatever you come up with, because you think it's the right thing to do, or you've read somewhere that it's really important or good for business, chances are it's not going to stick and it's not going to make much of a difference. So again, it comes back to that collaboration, that expectation that people's opinions and points of views and unique experiences are valued in the workplace, and if they're unlocked through having a culture which welcomes and embraces diversity of thought and experience, then that's going to be a really great thing, and you're going straight to the source on getting that good stuff unlocked, instead of 6 people over in the corner office who are not a diverse group of people coming up with some ideas. Like, you throw some of those ideas on the wall, they're not going to stick, nothing will change.
So let's just hark back very briefly to what America is doing, which is getting rid of DEI. That's the strong messaging that everybody should move away from that. What would be the impact of doing that?
As someone who's directly benefited from DE&I over my entire career, being a gay woman, I think it would be just disastrous. When I joined the industry 30 years ago, there were an awful lot of men in grey suits. Not that there's anything wrong with being a man in a grey suit. I welcome you all. But things have moved on. We have to reflect the diversity of our customer and member base. If we don't do that, then we are not being as relevant to them as we can. And what are people afraid of? What can diversity do other than good? What can inclusion do for people other than good? What are you afraid of? Is what I would say to anyone who decided that getting away with DE&I was a good idea. As a human race, we've got short memories, and those of us who really believe in DE&I, this is the time that we should stand up more than any other time against what is happening in the world.
Adrian, your thoughts?
Absolutely echo those comments. This is the time when we stand up and say that actually including everybody is the right thing to do. Because if I put a business lens on it, let's go back to basics. Men, women, I'm going to exclude 50% of the population because they don't like men, another however percent because they may be gay. It's just ridiculous. It's just a ludicrous concept. It is also, at the end of the day, I don't know any topic that we spend so much time worrying about what somebody does in the privacy of their own home. It's just a bizarre situation to me. I know we've spent a lot of time and energy on it. It is really important that we recognise that people are people, and we need them to work for us, and we need them to recognise and reflect customers, as you were saying, and really nothing should get in the way of that. And I thought it was interesting that I did see something that I think The Economist was saying that actually DEI might reappear in America under a different title. And I think the other thing that people sometimes don't realise about America is the federal government is very noisy, it's very loud and all the rest of it. A lot of the work is actually done at state level. And a lot of the states are actively still supporting DE&I, and that's why there's a lot of lawsuits flying around at the moment, which is a good thing. There are a few barricades that I will die on, but that's one of them.
Yeah. I'm glad you put a business lens on it as well as a human one, because there are so many studies that show that having DE&I is financially beneficial, if nothing else.
Yeah, I think there's a myriad that say you get better decisions over longer time if you have diverse range of thought around a table and diverse decision making. And there are many, many, many insurance companies over the years that have been very male dominated, very egocentric, that are no longer in business, and that's not a good thing.
Let's put this question to you, Simone. What are the exciting things happening globally regarding insurance that present opportunities for New Zealand? And where can New Zealand take a global lead?
Yeah, I think look, I think in terms of climate and sustainability from a global perspective, there's a great deal happening in many, many countries because of the events that we've had globally. So I think really tapping in to some of those global resources. America has a wealth of information in terms of what they're doing, and so I think really trying to tap into that and use that to actually help our industry here locally in New Zealand.
Let's put that to all of you, actually. Where can New Zealand take a global lead, do you think, Suzanne?
I think we could take a global lead in showing where all of the agencies and all of the organisations that are involved in creating resilience act together. I think we're a small enough nation, and we know a lot of the major players. Most of them are in this room. We could do so much as a small nation to demonstrate how it could be done well.
Yeah, I love the size of it, a lovely agile size. We can move with change, can't we, and help lead it. Your thoughts on that, Alyssa?
Yeah, I mean, we're really well positioned right now to actually do something. You know, if you're going to take a positive reflection on some of the conversations today, including, you know, Minister Watts talking about, you know, the reinsurers over in London saying that we're actually quite far advanced in our thinking, even though, you know, we've also talked in the same breath how frustratingly slow it's felt to get this adaptation framework in place. But we've got this unique position where there's lots of examples of adaptation structures and frameworks around the world that we don't necessarily need to, well, shouldn't replicate, but we can learn from them. And at this time where there's this like energy and momentum to actually try and land it in a way that, as Susan says, connects all the dots and all the players in a relatively contained market where we might just do it. So yeah, I think we've got the potential to do it, but the next year or two will be really critical.
So your vision, Adrian, where could we take a lead?
So I think everybody's talked about it. I think we have the opportunity to come together as a country, and you'll notice I'm not a Kiwi when I say that, but we have the opportunity to put the right people around a table and come up with something that I think would say to many, many countries around the world that are in the same boat but don't know where to start, there is a way of actually moving forward. There is a pretty big sense that climate is such a big issue that many people are sort of like, oh, I don't know where to go, I don't know what the first step is, I don't know how to do it. I think New Zealand has taken some positive steps, and I think we should be out there using our own resources here, but also using the thousands of Kiwis that are around the world to begin to generate that message that actually we may be able to help you. We've got some ideas. There are some things we've done. They may work in your territory, and I think there's a great opportunity there.
We will be wrapping fairly soon, but I just want to come back down to Alyssa. Do you have a final thought or provocation that you'd like to leave us with?
Should have prepared that. I guess the final thought is, I guess I'll come back to that idea around all of us have got that capability to have this openness to change that's really rapid in front of us. And so all of us are sick of, you know, I don't want to come back to the conference next year with the same, you know, energy of, oh, it's not happened. So what are we going to do differently starting from tomorrow to accelerate it? I think would be my provocation.
Great. And if it makes it any easier for you, Simone, I'm not sure if you've considered your answer in that short time. I don't want to frighten you into an answer. So if you want, you can frame it around getting insurance right. But up to you.
Oh, it's okay. I'll leave the audience with one word, and that is witch house. And if you've got a child that's between the age of 15 and 20, they will know what witch house is. It's a genre of music And I think you can all become DJs because ChatGPT now allows you to put in a 2-sentence phrase with Witch House in it. It'll produce the verse and the chorus for you. You can go to a music generator and it will generate the song automatically for you in Witch House. So
Wait, are we
enjoy.
talking W-I-T-C-H or W-H-I-C-H?
W-I-T-C-H.
Witchy,
Witch
okay.
House.
Witch House. Thank you. Great. And Adrian?
I follow that. I think, as I opened with, actually, I think go out of here with a bit of pride about the industry we work in. I think I heard somebody earlier saying, the last thing you want to do at a dinner party is tell people you work in insurance. And that's a sad thing, actually. I would love the day when we get the recognition for everything we do day in, day out. And I think that's, take some pride in the fact that you work in an industry that helps people, and there aren't many that do that. So that would be my takeaway.
Oh, just quickly before we finish with Suzanne, what are you most proud of working in this industry? What makes you proud?
So I think, three things really. We assess risk. So we give people an indication of the risk that they're running, and we do that through cost or availability. I think that's an important measure societally wise. We gather a lot of premiums, we invest those in local societies, and we do a lot in communities as well. A lot of us have charitable foundations. I think that's a really good thing. But at the end of the day, what we do is, and I said it earlier, when people sometimes are at their worst point, and we've seen this with the floods, when somebody's sitting there with 3 feet of mud going through their house, a metre of mud, we turn up, and we turn up with a check. I don't think you can be much prouder than that. I think that should make you feel proud.
Oh, I love that. Be proud. Suzanne, final thought.
I agree with everything Adrian just said, but I used to tell people that I was a taxidermist, but this years ago. But I now do tell people that I work in insurance because I do think we do a fantastic job, and I'm very, very proud of what Maz does. I'm very, very proud of what the industry does, and the improvements and the changes that we've worked through over the last 20 odd years now, with all of the disasters that we've dealt with, all of the learnings that we've taken, and we really, really can be proud of what we've done and be proud of the people that work with us.
Thank you very much for that, Suzanne. We are very grateful to all of you for joining us. We have little gifts here for you to say thank you. That is for you, Suzanne. Thank you so much. Adrian, Simone, and Alyssa. Here we go. Thank you so much. A round of applause, please, for our amazing panellists.